Okay.
We're ready when you are.
So our country was Saudi Arabia. So our thesis was the U.S. has taken over the oil industry, and that's causing the income to plummet. So families are losing their land, and women are facing harsh conditions because they're more dependent on.
Alright, so about Saudi Arabia, is a Middle Eastern country that's located in Asia. Their government structure is an absolute monarchy, and their head of the government is King Salman of Saudi Arabia, and their prince is Mohammed bin Salman Al Assad. And the population is 34.14 million, and they are the second largest crude oil producer and the world's largest top oil exporter for many other countries.
Okay, so speaking of the oil, Saudi Arabia it revolves around oil. So Arcmo is commonly known as the Saudi Arabia Oil Company. So and it began producing commercial quantities of crude oil in 1938, and today it's essential in the economy because it's the largest oil exporter in the world. And so the money that comes in the oil industry, and as you can see, it makes a lot, $33 billion per year, and sometimes even more. It doesn't go to the people, it goes to the government officials. So like anything that comes in from the oil, you'd assume it would go into like maybe schools or like government facilities, and that's usually not the case. So then, however, it's predicted that the United States will take over or try to take over the Arcmo oil industry. And I heard on the news today that Saudi Arabia is planning to sell a share of the oil company. And this is my opinion, that I think it's trying to sell it to the U.S. because they already know that the U.S. will be trying to take over the company. So they're going to try to like combat that before they can.
Alright, thank you. And
What are you, a news reporter? Weatherman?
Speaking of the people, the oil industry affects citizens, which causes them to be prevented from supplying needs for their families. And so it claims that lots of money that the government has spent, about billions of dollars, have not been going to the people. It actually has been going to has been spent on technology and equipment to help increase profit for the oil industry, according to the Washington Post and the Guardian. And also has been said that they spent millions of dollars trying to provide different programs and jobs for the people because the poverty rate has been increasing. But there were claims that the jobs and the different trainings that they have were not very sufficient. And also due to the insufficient jobs, the unemployment rate has been increasing for youth, especially in their 20s to 30s. And also that the royals of Saudi Arabia has been using different schemes to rip off their people for more money. And because Saudi Arabia is an oil-based economy, they are more focused on their oil production and their image of the country towards other countries that they have foreign relationships with, such as the U.S. and China and Japan and South Korea, that they barely pay attention to their citizens. And also, there was in 2011 about 3 bloggers who reported about Saudi Arabia's poverty rate have been jailed because of it. So they're really like to keep their poverty rate hidden, and it's also according to a source recommended by the Guardian magazine. And as a result, the population will continue to rise in poverty rate, which will affect the families to live in slums, which becomes extremely common, which will mainly affect the women as well in the families.
So women are facing harsher conditions because of poverty rising, income falling. Families are depending on the women to take care of them. So also, if you are not a Saudi citizen, then you don't get government benefits, and it's harder for you to be able to get them. And then, for example, there was this woman named Shamir, and she wasn't a Saudi citizen, so she was barely affording to live in her home because of the high poverty. And so she was just living off of charity from wealthy Saudis. And then, there was another slide. Okay, so women aren't as well respected in Saudi Arabia, so men are the ones that bring in the money to families. So if you, for some reason, don't have a man in your house, maybe he died or something, then it's gonna be more difficult for women to be able to bring in money because it's harder for them to get jobs. And women are more looked at as like housewives. They cook, they clean, they take care of family. And the country basically looks at, if you don't have the money coming in, we can't really help you until you find a way to get a job. And yeah.
So another thing with the woman, it's like if you don't have a man in your house, and if you don't have one, you'll get one really quickly. But in that short period of time, the poverty rate is so bad that it will literally like affect you for like a really long time, and it's really hard on you to get back on your feet, even with a man bringing in income, because the income is so small that it's really hard.
And also one more thing, that if you're like the woman of the house, you're basically claimed as stateless because of the income is low. It's about 750. It's like around 550 to 715 a month, which is depicted as low income for families.
Okay, our conclusion is the oil industry is causing a high rise in poverty. People are being evicted from their homes, especially women. If the U.S. takes over the business, then the country will start to fail and the poverty rate will go up. And then one thing that's trying to happen that's to combat everything is that the restructuring plan, and it's planned to end in about 2030, and it wants to help fix the economy and help make Saudi Arabia earn more money.
So they're also raising oil fines to bring in more money so the country can get out of the poverty state. And these are references.
All right. Excellent. Thank you for being brave and going first. I do have some questions for this team, and these will be the same questions we'll ask next time. So my first question, this one I'm going to give this one to Rachel. What information from your team individual researcher papers did you exclude from this presentation, and why?
Like, what did we just
What did you leave out that came from someone's individual paper, and why?
So we left out a lot of the military things of how the U.S. like helps them. And I feel like I chose to leave that out of my slide because today I was listening to the news, and that's how I figured out how that they're trying to sell a share of their company. I found out that even though they have been attacked by like the Yemen and everything, even though they've been attacked, like other companies that are trying to get the oil, it's like it doesn't like affect the company so much that they just don't care about it. Like they're like, okay, they got attacked, whatever. Here's my money. Where's my oil? Like, they do not care. So that's another reason why I decided to leave out that.
Okay, so the international conflict part didn't get brought into this for that reason. Okay, great, thank you. Let me ask one. I'm going to ask this one for Andrea. This is a process one. How did you divide the work among team members, and why did you choose to do it that way?
All right, so basically when we were gathered together to write down all our information about each of our individual papers, we decided that me and Rachel's was basically kind of similar alike. So we wanted to do it based on like a perspective from their oil, from like the oil company, and mine do it from the people's base, because if we do it together similar, it's going to be like a one view of it instead of different perspectives, because it's going to be standard instead of complex.
Okay. then my last question maybe for Miss. And I think I'm going to ask this one. Miss, what information did you learn about this topic that you have been unaware of? And why is this information significant?
More tying into the oil part of it all, because my whole paper was based on the women's rights and how they're affected in their country. And then when we got together as a group, we based it off of all of that, including like the oil and how the government plays that part with the oil. So that's the new information I learned, was more on how the oil can also affect the women.
Excellent. Okay, that's my questions. Give them a big hand. Yay! Good job, good job, good job. You guys did excellent on your timing as